Welcome to SOL 302, Study Session 9, Social Change and Inter-Ethnic Relations in Nigeria. Introduction. In this study session, we'll discuss social change and inter-ethnic relations with specific reference to Nigeria. We'll discuss the meaning of social change, sources of change, types of change, and factors affecting ethnic relations in Nigeria. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Discuss the concept of inter-ethnic relations in Nigeria. 2. Explain the sources of changes in Nigeria. 3. Enumerate the types of social change in Nigeria. 4. Discuss the factors affecting ethnic relations in Nigeria. Inter-ethnic relations in Nigeria. Everything in the society changes, including the society itself. Social change can involve changes in ideas, subsystems, institutions or structures, persons' lifestyles, and human population. By definition, social change refers to significant alteration of social structure, including consequences and manifestations embodied in norms, values, and other cultural products, symbols, etc. We can also define social change as significant alteration over time in behavioral pattern and culture, including norms and values. Social change can also be described as a total modification in society's dominant culture. Therefore, social change is change in the structure and functioning of social relationship of society. It has been said that the only thing constant in human society is change. At this point, it will be pertinent to state that when we talk of social change, it is the people that make up the society that change, not the society itself, because the society is an abstract phenomenon which can neither be seen nor touched. Rather, people are changing in the ways they talk, dress, eat, think, greet, sleep, etc. That is, people are changing in their ways of life. No culture, however, isolated from outside influence, adjusted to its environment and conservation in its outlook is truly stable and unchanging. Social change, for the most part, occurs gradually and without design. The process of change is continuous in time and place. All societies change. The mode of change can be evolutionary or radical. When it is evolutionary, it maintains certain elements or characteristics with new ones being introduced. Radical change usually involves fundamental changes in the structure, that is, subsystem, institutions, and persons of the society. Such a change usually marks a radical departure from the past or former system to the new structure or system which becomes dominant. Sources of social change. There are different sources of change. There are internal sources and external sources. The internal sources include population, ideology, technology, education, and innovation, while external sources include diffusion and acculturation, population. This is one of the sources of change. As population changes, the society also changes. For example, over the years, the Nigerian population has changed from a little over 88.5 million in 1991 to over 140 million since 2006. This also has affected all other components of the Nigerian society. For example, more schools and other infrastructural facilities are needed and indeed have to be established or provided to cater for the needs of the growing population. Ideology. This has to do with changes in ideas. Ideology refers to people's belief on how things ought to be. For example, in the past, people believed that women should not work outside the home, but presently, this idea has changed tremendously to the extent that women have been elected into positions of power and authority. Changes in the status of women may not be designed, but may be due to circumstances which the society found itself. With rapid economic development in modern society, it has become inevitable that women have to pick up formal jobs outside their homes to earn income to supplement whatever the husband would bring home. Technology. This is one of the most important sources of social change. This has to do with the technique of production. As technology changes, the material base of the society also changes. For example, in the past, people used crude, simple implements to farm, thus engaging in the subsistence agriculture. However, today, people use modern implements to farm. Even in the recent time, the prevalence of computers, internet services, global system of mobile communication, GSM, and other forms of information and communication technology, ICT, have changed the Nigerian society as more and more people are being employed in the communication subsector. Also, changes in technology have also led to the establishment of more industries. Education. Education is another notable source of change in every society. Education is the deliberate and organized transmission of values, knowledge, and skills. For this to be made possible in modern society, schools are established to give formal learning to people. The formal learning complements informal education individuals receive at home. Formal learning has become very useful in meeting the challenges of modern societies. It has become the major force in the reorientation of the attitude and values of individuals. Innovation. Innovation refers to the process of introducing an idea or object that is new. There are two forms of innovation, namely discovery and invention. A discovery involves making known or sharing the existence of an aspect of reality. The sharing of any new found knowledge with others is a significant factor in the process of discovery. An invention, on the other hand, is a process that results when existing cultural items are combined into a form that did not exist before. Examples are computers, democracy, internet, etc. On the other hand, the external sources include the following. Diffusion. This is a process whereby the ways of life of a group of people become influenced by other people's way of life, either because they live close to each other or because they have traded with each other over a long period. Also, diffusion means the exchange of cultural traits from one society to another. Diffusion can occur through a variety of means, including exploration, military conquest, missionary work, the influence of mass media, and tourism. Acculturation. This is related to diffusion. It refers to the adoption of new traits or patterns in the course of cultural contact. It is usually the way one learns from another and thereby enriches its life. Therefore, acculturation is deliberate imitation of other people's way of life. For example, the use of weave-on by some Nigerian girls and women. This is more deliberate than diffusion, but it involves external influences. Types of social change. Several types of social change exist. They include political change, cultural change, economic change, institutional change, and changes in person or groups of individuals in the society. Political change. This often involves change of government, new regimes, new policies, and at times the system of governance, that is, from military to civil rule, or from parliamentary to presidential system of government. Cultural change. This involves change in artifacts, mode of dressing, architecture, dancing, rituals, taboos, etc. Cultural change often involves changes in social life of the people in terms of social aggregation, communal living, segregation, individualism, collectivism, etc. For example, in the 1960s and 1970s, wearing a trouser was not common among young ladies. In fact, people used to frown at ladies doing this. But today, most people have not only accepted it as a way of life, but are actively encouraging young ladies to wear trousers because it makes them look smart. Economic change. This at times involves changes in the production base of the society, such as industrialization with the advent of new technology. This can lead to new tastes of goods and services, high inflation or low inflation, capital markets, and increase in demand and supply in the religious change. This often involves change in the belief system of the people. For example, from African traditional religion to Islam or Christianity. Educational change. This may involve changes within the educational system itself, whether formal or informal, or Arabic system of education. It can also involve change in the curriculum or new system of learning, such as the 6334 system of education being introduced in Nigeria. Institutional changes. These usually involve change in the institutions of society, such as new form of marriage, e.g., from traditional to Christian or church marriage, changes in the family setup from an extended dominant system to the nuclear type, especially in urban areas, and other forms of social networks within the kinship and family system. All the existing groups discussed previously had undergone changes in their culture and way of life. Factors affecting inter-ethnic relationship in Nigeria. Nigeria is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious society with over 374 ethnic groups and sub-ethnic groups. Some of these ethnic groups included but not limited to Afiami, Agbasa, Anang, Anwai, Aro people, Atyap, Auluminden, Awori tribe, Bagara, Arabs, Bariba people, Berom people, Buduma people, Chamba people, Damakawa, Defaka, Ebira, Edan tribe, Edo people, Efik people, Egba tribe, Eket, Ekiot people, Ekpeye people, Eleme people, Emai people, Esan, Etsako people, Filipinos in Nigeria, Fon people, Gokana Kingdom, Gwari, Hausa people, Hausa Fulani, Ibibio people, Idoma people, Igala, Igbo people, Ijo people, Ekwide, Ekwere people, Isoko people, Ishekri, Jukum people, Kanuri people, Kilba, Kildi, Kofia, Kote people, Longuda, Maguzawa, Hausa people, Mumuye, Ungi, Zim people, Nkoro people, Nupe people, Ogoni people, Ogugu, Orom people, Saros, Tarok, Tiv people, Bele people, Urobo. Would that be Yewa Kanuri people, Yewa tribe, Yoruba people, and Zuma people? More often, inter-ethnic relations between and among these ethnic groups have been characterized by conflicts and crises. Some of the factors that have brought about these conflicts and crises are discussed below. Religious bigotry. Religion has been defined as man's relationship with external beings. In Nigeria, there are three main religions, namely African traditional religion, Islam, and Christianity. The last two are foreign-based religion, and they have a lot of adherents. Within these two main religions, there are numerous denominations and sects, each claiming to represent the only way to worship God. Over the years, religious bigotry by these religious adherents has resulted in the acts of senseless killing of people all over Nigeria, especially in the northern part of the country. The politicians have manipulated religious differences between the various ethnic groups in Nigeria to achieve their narrow and personal interests. This has created mutual suspicion and distrust between and among the various ethnic groups in Nigeria. Illiteracy. Most Nigerians are still not literate enough. That is, the number of those who have acquired formal education is still small compared to those without formal education in Nigeria, especially in rural communities. Education performs very useful function in the lives of individuals and the nation at large. For instance, a person who is educated is likely to see things in a relatively broad-minded way, unlike a person without a formal education. For a person who is an illiterate, the person is more amenable to ethnic manipulation by the politician than a person who is educated. Fear of domination. Nigeria has three major ethnic groups, namely Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. It is important to note that since independence, these three ethnic groups have dominated the economic and political landscape to their own advantage and nearly excluding other minority groups. Other ethnic groups have been reacting and protesting this perceived domination and marginalization. Their fear is centered on the fact that if they do not protect their language and culture, they may go into extinction. High rate of youth unemployment. Youth unemployment is very common and widespread in Nigeria. Unemployment has remained the common feature of the Nigerian labor market. Unemployment in Nigeria is one of the most critical problems facing the country. Available data from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, indicates that the unemployment rate in Nigeria in the age bracket 15 to 64 years stood at 5.3% at the end of 2006, an improvement over the 11.9% in 2005. Nigerian youths are facing myriad challenges, but the government does not seem to pay attention to their plight. Many of those who dropped out of secondary schools and those who managed to pass through lack the skills to compete in the rather weak economy and tight labor market. These unemployed youths are being used repeatedly by the politicians to fan the embers of ethnic conflict and clashes in Nigeria. Natural endowment and quest for resource control. Nigeria is a country endowed with different natural resources. For instance, in the north, groundnut is being produced. In the southwest, cocoa. In the north-central area of Jos, thin. In the southeast, coal and oil palm. In the south-south region of Nigeria, crude oil is produced. Before and immediately after the independence of Nigeria, each region depended on the mineral resource produced in its area to develop its region. However, after the Nigerian Civil War, the country started to depend exclusively on the exploration of crude oil as its major foreign revenue earner. The region producing the crude oil felt that the activities of the multinational oil companies operating in the area have devastated the environment with little or visible development in the region. This perceived injustice has resulted into youth militancy, kidnapping, and other criminal activities in the region, thereby heightening mutual ethnic suspicion and crises in the region and other parts of Nigeria. This has brought the youth of the region into collision courses with security agents and the Nigerian state in general. Clientized activities of the ruling class. The ruling classes, especially the political and the military, had at various times manipulated the ethnic differences to achieve their political ambition. They had manipulated the ignorance, illiteracy, and joblessness of the youth in order to achieve their clandestine political goals. Because Nigeria is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious country, the politicians and the military had exploited the differences in culture and religion in their attempt to legitimize their position. They have adopted divide and rule to further their political nest and raise the tempo of ethnic and religious suspicion among the people. The incidents of the June 12 election, allegedly won by late MKO Abiola, a Yoruba, was exploited by the politicians and the ruling military class to further divide and polarize the Nigerians. The ethnic and tribal undertone and coloration, the struggle to actualization of the June 12 election later took, showed that most of the ruling class could exploit the slightest difference to further their political interests. Widespread poverty. Poverty refers to the condition of not having the means to afford basic human needs such as clean water, nutrition, healthcare, education, clothing, and shelter. Most people in Nigeria are poor. These include relative and absolute poverty. Poverty is prevalent in the Nigerian society and has been linked to the degradation of agricultural land and environment, lack of jobs, past years of mismanagement of the nation's economy, corruption, and so on. This is especially in the rural areas in Nigeria. Affected people became impoverished to achieve their aim. In the northern part of Nigeria, where poverty is rampant, the adolescents roaming the streets have become used to the politicians who use them to achieve their political goals. Corruption. Corruption is very endemic in Nigeria. This obviously covers every aspect of Nigeria, including religion, political, economic, education, and bureaucracy. Because most people who perpetuate corruption practices are mostly those in exalted political offices, only few resources are left for the development of the nation. The struggle for these few available resources has pitted one ethnic group against another. However, despite the above named factors that have affected the ethnic relation in Nigeria, there are other factors that have bonded the people together. Some of the factors are common colonial experience. All the ethnic groups in Nigeria were united in the fight against colonialism. That spirit which they used continued to bind them together even after the independence. They see themselves as one people, bound together by a common destiny. All the nationalists that fought the colonial masters came from various ethnic backgrounds, such as Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Chief Anthony Enahoro, Chief Ernest Okoli, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, and so on. Armed forces. Members of the armed forces have intervened at very crucial times to keep the country together. Although there have been debates on whether their involvement actually polarized the country or united the country. For instance, some scholars have argued that most of the problems Nigeria have today could be traced to the military intervention in politics in 1966. No matter what, the activities of the Nigerian military to keep the nation as one during the Nigerian Civil War should be applauded. Also, the Gowon's administration, even after the war, declared that there was no victor, there was no vanquished. Federal character and quota system. The federal character and quota system as avenues created by the Nigerian government to ensure that all Nigerians from various parts of the country are given sense of belonging in their fatherland. With this, employment in the federal ministries, agencies, and parastatals from grade level 08 and above must reflect the federal character. Also, political appointment into federal cabinet must reflect federal character. Similarly, admission into unity colleges and federal high institutions must reflect the quota system so as to give all the candidates from each state opportunity to be represented. Although scholars have criticized this measure as promoting mediocrity, nonetheless, this has helped to redress the issue of perceived marginalization and allay the fears of domination, hereby keeping Nigeria as one indivisible entity. National symbols and institutions. The national symbols like the national anthem, the pledge, the national flag, and the coat of arms serve to unite Nigerians irrespective of their ethnic and religious affiliation. When people stand up to salute the national flag, sing the national anthem, recite the national pledge, they are reaffirming their collective desire to remain as one invincible country. Also, some schemes like the National Youth Service Corps, which was started in 1973, as being an attempt to unite the nation by making the youths graduating from higher institutions in Nigeria to undertake a one-year compulsory service in other localities and states other than their own. With this, the youth are to learn and appreciate other people's culture and ways of life as a way of uniting the people. Furthermore, the federal universities and unity schools are all established to foster national unity and integration. In addition to this, the National Orientation Agency serves to propagate and enlighten the masses on the need for peaceful coexistence. Study session summary. In this study session, we'll discuss the concept of social change. We'll define social change as a significant alteration of social structure, including the consequences and manifestations embodied in norms, values, and other cultural practices of the society. The lecture also identified the sources of change to include population, ideology, technology, education, innovation, diffusion, and acculturation. Furthermore, the lecture also examined type of change, which included political change, religious change, educational change, institutional change. The lecture also identified and discussed the factors affecting the inter-ethnic relation in Nigeria. This is the end of study session 9. Thanks for listening.